No. I've got an announcement to make first.
Really?
Yes. Last week, in a bid to show that Britain is not too crowded to have fun in a nice car, I took a Ferrari to this road, OK, and I said that even though this was just 40 miles from London, in Hertfordshire, there was no traffic at all, and you could still enjoy it in the Ferrari that I was using. Well, we have been inundated with complaints, and I do mean inundated.
Oh, there've been a lot.
A lot, and people were absolutely furious. How dare the BBC say this is Hertfordshire? It plainly isn't. Well, you're right. I admit it, and I apologise. That is not Hertfordshire. It's Buckinghamshire, actually.
Nevertheless, well spotted, all of you, for seeing that. You were on the ball there.
Now, Ford has obviously decided that the problem with modern cars is they don't have enough radiator grills. So this is their new one. This is the EcoSport.
Wow!
And it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 radiator grills. Now, so you've got a 1-litre engine. It's going to be under there. It's going to need the blankets because it'll be drafty.
He's shivering in a corner. Oh, cold.
No, that massive car hasn't got a 1-litre house.
No, it's not massive. It looks it, but it's basically a Fiesta on stilts. It's actually a small car. With a
Can I just say,
engine.
the thing that baffles me most about this car, and I'm going to quote for you here, OK? It says, as a first in Europe, the Ford Sync App Link system will offer drivers voice control of mobile apps on the move, including the music streaming service Spotify. Now, does anyone here have the first idea what any of that means? Does anyone really? What is it?
Spotify.
What is Spotify?
Spotify is a music streaming service, so you can listen to music over the internet.
What, any music?
Any music.
So if I were just driving along and I said Roxanne, it would play Roxanne.
Maybe.
No. Well, hang on, that's not going to work. Because we know that voice recognition in cars is rubbish. It never works, does it? So if you just say the police, it'll probably actually ring the police. But it's...
That's bad.
No, it will. It will, because this car's got a feature on it that if you have an accident or get into problems, it calls the emergency services for you.
Oh, well, that's just a recipe for disaster.
Because you'd be sitting there going, right, get the fire brigade, and it would play the move. Get the fire brigade, get the fire brigade.
Oh, I'm in trouble! Help! I need somebody. Help! No! What's a terrible way to die? Trapped in your car, listening to all the embarrassing rubbish on your iPod.
Anyway, so that won't work.
Yes, let's move on.
Can I let you into a little secret?
Oh, is it time?
No. Can I let you into a little secret? You know those gantries over the motorway? They've got them on the M25 and on the M1, OK? Now, the idea is they've got speed limits on them, so you can temporarily lower the speed limit to warn drivers of an accident or congestion ahead. And then there are speed cameras on the back of the gantries to make sure that people do actually slow down. Well, now, here's my secret. It turns out the police can turn those cameras on at any time they like.
Really?
Which means the chief constable sitting there at his desk thinks, I fancy a new car. Pop the cameras on, and after, well, I was going to say half an hour, but probably 10 seconds, he's got enough for a supercharged Jag.
We should point out, for reasons of BBC impartiality, that other luxury cars are available to bent chiefs of policemen.
The only thing I don't like about it is the name, ST. And why have they named it after a lady towel?
Now, the news, and the news is, you may have read about this recently, there are plans to open pubs in motorway service stations.
I don't get that.
I don't get it either, because as it's on a motorway, you're bound to be driving, which means you can only have one drink, and when it comes to drink, one is impossible.
Yeah, I guess.
Is it being demanded? Yeah.
What if you're the passenger?
Oh, I see, James. So I'm driving you, and as I fill up with petrol, you say, I'm going to go and get a gin and tonic.
Yes.
Well, if you do that, you may as well prepare a sign that says Hammersmith on a bit of card, because when you come out, I'll have gone. Hey, now, we've got some important consumer news for everybody. When you go into a car showroom now, the salesman will try to sell you lots of electronic bits and bobs for your car. Here's our top gear, top tip. Don't bother with any of them. because they don't work, any of them.
Bluetooth.
Bluetooth.
That Bluetooth never works.
It doesn't.
does it?
Hammond uses it, and it's like he's sitting at the bottom of a river.
Yeah, well, to be fair, sometimes I am.
Shall I tell you the thing that doesn't work most of all? Voice activation.
Oh, that's just a shouting match with
No, because you're driving along, don't have to take your hands off the wheel. You go, call Richard Hammond.
collapsing suspension.
It does. Oh dear, it's misunderstood me. Call Richard Hammond.
Deflating tire.
That's it. Reinflate tyres.
Reinflate like calling Richard Hammond.
It's just the problem is that in the olden days, or when it first came out, voice activation was just for the radio or for the satellite navigation, something. So now it's for every single feature on the car and in your life, and it has to understand every accent in all of Britain. So it's or Ockeye the new, and it's just all right, pet, and it just can't cope. So you're just driving along, you're Radio 2.
Accessing bank account. Transferring funds.
Now, the Royal Mail, as we know, often issues commemorative stamps. You know, they pick on a subject like woodpeckers or hats or diseases.
Diseases.
Anyway, they've decided to do a range of stamps based on classic British motoring cars. And I've got some of the ones they've done for you here. There's the Lotus Esprit. This isn't the actual size of the stamp, by the way.
I did wonder.
This is a mock-up.
I see.
But anyway, they've got the Lotus Esprit, and they've got the Aston Martin DB5, and if you don't want your letter to get there, the MG.
Oh, God, look at that dismal little... A Ford Anglia police car.
Now that is a Ford Anglia. That is the scariest thing I've ever done in however many years I've been testing cars. 25 years?
80.
Yeah, 80 years. 80 years was doing an emergency stop once in one of those. My dad lost his kneecaps in one of those. I don't mean lost them like, oh, where are they? They're under the
I was going to say, they'll be under the seat.
No, he crashed it, and then they had to take his kneecaps out after crashing a Ford Anglia. And now they put it on a stamp.
Yeah.
That's more dreadful Heritage Britain nonsense, isn't it?
Oh, God, no, it gets worse. Look at that one.
That is the Archers as a postage stamp. Why don't they put something modern on it? You could put the McLaren on it, you could put the Bentley Mulsanne on it. That would be fantastic on a stamp. I mean, the French wouldn't do a stamp that had an old bloke on a bicycle and a stripy T-shirt with some onions for sale, would they? That's what
The Germans wouldn't do a stamp with a half-track just outside Warsaw.
No, exactly.
No, they really wouldn't. No, Joby, they definitely... No, they wouldn't do that.
No, they wouldn't, would they?
Now time to do the news.
Yes, and we begin with the government's attitude to speed limits.
You did that last week.
I did it last week and the week before and the week before that, and every single week the producers have edited it out.
Yeah, they have.
But this week I have a cunning plan to make sure it stays in.
Do you?
Yes, I do. Bear with me. Okay, you know, earlier on this year, the government said they were thinking of upping the motorway speed limits at 80 miles an hour, yes? Well, the new Transport Minister, Patrick McLaughlin, recently announced that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I know.
Which is a blessed relief.
What? Why?
Because, if you think about it, OK, if he'd upped the speed limit to 80, he would, to keep the Daily Mail happy and all of the road safety charities, he would have had to say, right, we're having more police patrols, more speed cameras, more drones with more Hellfire missiles, to make sure people stick to 80, which is 15 miles an hour slower than we all drive now.
No, you're absolutely right. People on the motorway drive at 95 miles per hour. And yet, I think I'm right in saying that British motorways are the safest roads in Europe, statistically.
They are indeed. They are indeed. Now, I did an experiment to prove my 95 mile an hour point this morning, and I drove down the motorway here, OK, at exactly 70.
Well, don't you always drive down the motorway at exactly 70? Yeah.
Yes, I do.
Yes.
Yes, I do. No, I don't. No. I usually drive slower than that.
Do you?
But for my experiment, I sped up to 70. OK? Drove for 15 miles at 70. Guess how many cars overtook me?
Well, I'm guessing quite a few.
103.
That was all of them.
All of them, exactly. So, thank you very much, Mr. McLaughlin, for maintaining the 70 mile an hour speed limit, because that means we can all carry on doing 95. And that's the end of the news.
What, is it?
Can't edit that out, can they?
Oh, I see what you did. It's the only thing in it. Yeah, that works. It's got to go in. It's good. Well done.
Good news, ladies and gentlemen. Special limited edition black version of the Duster.
No, hang on a minute. Black like a... I mean, I normally go great and then move on, but that's black like a Mercedes 6.2 V8.
No. It's literally black.
That's it.
I was going to say they've painted it black. Actually, they haven't painted it. They've done a wrap, you know, like a bin line.
So there's a
that goes-
blue edition and a yellow edition.
And a white one,
Just
yeah.
a black.
It's just a black, that's
Yeah.
a bit daft.
Yeah.
Oh, now, can I just say something? As we know, the heat wave ended spectacularly in Britain on Tuesday. Many storms, got some pictures of the aftermath here. I'm not gloating, but call me Noah. I mean, this guy with his BMW, very proud of it, but at that moment he's thinking, I wish I had that hover van.
Yeah. We told you.
Hey, I've got some serious news. A lot of cars these days have got a sport button on them, OK? And the idea is you push it and it makes everything more taut and more racy, OK? But I've long harboured a suspicion that it doesn't actually make the car go any faster. So last week we did a test. We got a new Golf GTI down here, which incidentally is a brilliant, brilliant car.
Really good.
It's properly good. Anyway, got the Stig, put him in normal mode, sent him around the track, and he did a 129.6. Okay? We then put it in sport, which beefed up the suspension and the front differential, and it made the steering heavier, and it quickened the throttle response. Okay? In sport, 129.6.
What, exactly the same?
Exactly the same. We then put it in comfort mode, makes everything soft and gooey. 129.5.
Fast.
Faster.
That is confirmation that the sport button just makes the car more uncomfortable.
Yeah, it shouldn't say sport, it should just say worse.
I'm not actually that interested in pubs and motorway service stations. What really bothers me is, why do they sell trousers? Because I've never got halfway. Has anybody ever gone halfway through a motorway journey and they thought, I forgot my trousers? I better get these elasticated beige ones.
I don't understand why people even stop to eat at a motorway service station.
There is no car journey in Britain that could be so long that you would starve to death before you got to it. You don't
That's
need...
my argument with the pub thing, is it's not that far to wait for a drink. You don't think, I'm so desperate, I'm going to pull over and have half a pint of shandy. Stupid.
I would.
Well, that's because you're a raving alcoholic, James.